Hello, and welcome to the Moms Love Coaching Podcast, where we talk about self-care from the inside out for moms. I'm your host, Carrie McFarland, along with Angie Turgeon-Ledoux. We are certified life coaches and moms, and in this podcast, we'll go beyond the take a spa day advice and talk about real and sustainable ways that you can feel better, be happier, and stay out of overwhelm and burnout. You spend your life taking care of everyone else. In this podcast, each week, it's all about you taking care of you with no guilt and no apologies. We're so happy that you've decided to spend this time with us, so go ahead and grab your favorite cup of coffee, find a comfortable place, and get ready to spend the next 30 minutes focusing on the most important person in your life, you. All right, welcome to Moms Love Coaching, everybody. Self-care from the inside out for moms. We're back for another week. I'm Carrie McFarland with Angie Turgeon-Ledoux. Hi, Angie.
Hi, Carrie. How are you today?
I'm good today.
One day at a time, folks.
One day at a time. I say it like that because I've been sick. I was sick a few weeks ago, and then I had to travel for work. And I wasn't sick while I was traveling, but then I was sick when I came home. Then I got over that. And then I ended up getting like this eye infection thing that was super painful. And I'm like, okay, like enough.
Yeah.
Enough with the sickness, like enough. Yeah. So I'm actually feeling good today. I got medicine and my eye doesn't hurt. It's not 100% gone, but it's mostly gone and it feels better. So I'm grateful for that. It got me thinking about when, my kids were younger and even now to some extent, but mostly when they were younger and I was sick or injured in some way and also had to take care of the kids. We didn't really have any family around us. Mm-hmm. So it was just me and my husband for the most part. And when I got sick because I was the stay-at-home parent, I had to still take care of them because I was thinking about, especially with my eye, because it was so painful. And I had to, so I've never had this before. I don't know if anybody's had this before, let me know, but I've never had this before. When I bent down, it's like my eye would hurt as if like it was being stabbed, like the pressure. So I was thinking about like if I had to, like, these are the things that go through my mind even now, right? If I had to like bend down into like the crib to pick up the baby, that would have been painful every single time. Or even just like them playing the drop game, that fun little game that babies play where they drop
think about it. If you have an infant or a toddler, how many times you bend over to pick something up?
Yeah. Or that. And so it just like popped in my mind. And I was like, that is I think one of the hardest things that moms have to do is take care of other little humans while you are also sick. And not even to mention if they're sick as well, right? Which is usually why you're sick. So the chances of them also being sick are pretty high, but once in a while it happens that it's just you when they're fine. And now that I say that out loud, I'm not sure what's worse, because if they're sick, at least they're a little like slower, because they're not feeling good, and maybe they'll take a little bit longer nap or something, right? But if they're fine and they're running around like normal and you're not fine, that's really hard. Even just a cold, it really, you can take medicine for it and stuff, and everybody kind of blows off a cold like, oh, it's just a cold. Well, colds, they affect you, it's not just pushing through your day. That's what everybody does.
You can be pretty miserable with a cold, especially if you don't have Kleenex like handy. It's like you're always running to get the Kleenex, and nose hurts, and you constantly need to sneeze. So I think a cold can be just as problematic.
Yeah, just feeling like run down and and think about like when you have a cold, what is the worst possible time of the day when you have a cold? When you wake up.
Yes.
And so usually, at least my kids would wake up anywhere between 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. And then you have to be up. And now that my kids are older, if I'm sick, I will take my shower and get myself feeling better. But when they're babies like that, you don't always have that option. You just have to feel that way now for however long until they go down for their nap or something, or you can get them in front of the TV so you can take a quick shower. I don't want to get into the specifics of this sickness versus that sickness. And
right.
Although I do have some stories, and so does Angie.
Love
stories, so we'll be telling you some stories. It's such a mental game for yourself to be able to get yourself through the day. We talk about it all the time. Thoughts create your feelings, and feelings create your actions. Well, if you have the thought that I'm miserable, and then you feel miserable, everything that you do is going to be proving to yourself that you're miserable and it's never going to end.
Right. Can make for some pretty challenging situations. And I mean, there's so many different layers. So I think our assumption with this episode is that you're sick at home. Like you're not traveling. that we're talking about incidental sickness and not chronic illness, which is a whole other layer, and thankfully has not been a major issue in my experience, but it's a stomach bug or the cold or COVID. Yeah.
Or before they had the vaccine, my daughter got the rotavirus.
Oh.
And she was hospitalized for it. And then I didn't even know what the rotavirus was. I had never heard of that before. And so we ended up getting the rotavirus while she was recovering from the rotavirus.
You can't hold anything in your body. It's coming out.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
Yeah, I think Sydney had that too, which was really.
Yeah, it's really bad. And so, when you're an adult, you can manage it pretty well, but like babies, they can't manage it. I mean, she just got completely dehydrated, which is why we had to bring her to the hospital. She was crying with no tears. And I mean, she was only 10 months old.
So that's a little more extreme than the kind, when you have to go to the hospital and then everybody gets sick and you have one in the hospital. Oh my goodness. It's like, how do you walk yourself through those? And sometimes you're crawling, right? Sometimes you're crawling yourself through
we were crawling.
And especially in Carrie's situation, your support system was you and your partner. You didn't even feel like you had a neighbor that you could call on.
No, not for that particular thing, because I mean, that was super contagious too. So we didn't really want to bring people in. Now his parents did come eventually. It was sort of by that point, we were all almost better, so trying to navigate taking care of yourself while you're sick and also taking care of your kids at the same time is probably one of the hardest things, in my opinion, that moms have to do. I say moms specifically because I still think that even in 2024, and I know this isn't across the board because there's always exceptions to the rule, but in general, the responsibility of taking care of the kids still falls on the mom, especially if you're the stay-at-home parent.
Yeah, we had a few ideas about, from our own experience, what I wish I understood better. Because I feel like, now I'll just tell folks my story real quick. So at this time, I had a 14-year-old, an infant, and a 3-year-old. The infant at my mother's, and I think my oldest, I think he was not feeling well. So I think he was staying home, and my husband had to go to a conference. So I had to take him to the airport. On the way down to the airport, we stopped and got breakfast, and I'm like, oh, this breakfast, it's not really tasting good. But I had the 3-year-old in the car, and she starts complaining. She doesn't feel good, and she throws up all over herself. I'm pulling into the Target, and I throw up all over myself. I don't think I've gotten out of the car.
Oh
my gosh. I'm like, oh my God, I'm covered in vomit and smelly, and she's covered in vomit and smelly. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I walk into the Target. I went up to them and I said, I've been sick and I just need to come in to get a change of clothes. And they helped me and understood I was going to just go right there and get some new, clean, fresh clothes and then pay for them there and go into the bathroom, which was right there. So, but by the time I got home, my mom was bringing me the baby because she didn't feel good. So clearly, and neither did my dad. So they were fighting with the stomach bug. It was a stomach bug.
Oh,
And then
no.
and Brett's in Utah, and he had the stomach bug. He missed his first day of his conference. But I think about that, and I'm like, I had to figure out how to get up, get people food, feed people, make sure they were drinking, which it was about a 24-hour period that we dealt with that. And then people started feeling better and stuff. I look back at that time and I'm like, I don't know how I got through it, and everybody survived it. So any ideas that would help somebody, just the way they think about it. I think one of the things you do is you let go of anything that's non-essential. Babies are dry and changed and fed.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the reasons it's so hard, it's hard because of the physical aspect of it, especially if you have a stomach bug or you're injured, or even, like we said, even just a cold. When you're feeling just miserable, just the physical part of it is bad enough, but then the mental part of it is even worse almost, because moms put so much pressure on themselves to be able to handle everything. When my kids were younger, I was very conscious of not giving them processed foods and making sure that their screen time and TV time were like only a certain amount during the day. And the guilt of I'm not taking care of my kids was enormous, because and that's what I mean when I talk about it's as much a mental game as it is a physical game. Because if you start having the thoughts like, I can't take care of my kids, or I'm not taking care of my kids the way that I should, this is miserable, or, like all those thoughts that go through your head, you're just going to compound everything that's happening and make everything that much worse for yourself. You're sick. And so the circumstances have changed for you. Like normally you would have a day and you would do certain things and make sure certain things happened. But when you're sick, all that goes out the window.
Right.
And I remember, I think I got the stomach bug was the very first time that I had to take care of my daughter when I was deathly ill. Every time I moved, I would get sick and couldn't eat anything and all this stuff. And I was like by myself. I remember like trying to hold her and basically not drop her. And I remember thinking, you're making more out of this like than you should, and stop making a big deal about this and just do it. And this is what mothers do. And like, I would just basically beat the crap out of myself, because I can't take care of my kid the way that I should, because I'm sick,
right?
Like physically sick. And so I would really lay into myself, you should be able to do this. You want a kid, like this is what it is, and don't complain. And, and those are sort of the messages that I got from other people too, or no support for like anybody, so it takes a toll on your mental health, because you start to think you really are making a big deal out of nothing. Like you should be able to do that. Like this is what starts, I think, solidifying in your brain that you are the one who does it all. And you should be able to do it all, no matter what, under any circumstances. And we're here to tell you that you don't have to do it all. And sometimes it's not available to people to have people help you when you're sick, and you just do what you need to do. You're in survival mode at that point. So you lower those expectations to the ground if you have to, and just do literally the bare minimum, and not feel bad about it, because you have to take care of yourself. And if that's the only way that you can do it, then that's the only way that you can do it.
It's the reality of the situation. It's like you have to look at like your wishful thinking. Oh, I'm going to be, before you have kids, you're like, I'm going to be that parent that does blah, 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 blah. Like you have this image of yourself as this super person.
I was that parent. I was that person.
And then you get slapped with the reality of everybody has a stomach bug, and you have no food in the house, and you have to figure out how to go to the grocery store and pick up a few things. And somehow you just trust that everything will work out. Somehow you just figure out the basics: water, formula, diapers, extra buckets. I think it was during that time where I realized that the throw up bucket didn't need to be a bucket, but it could be a pot from the kitchen.
It could be anything.
Right. Yeah. You wash those things afterward in hot water, and I'm like, oh, so I could give the kids just a 3-quart pot that's much smaller and they can hold so they don't miss it. Like, you develop these little tricks that help you survive. Say, for example, you're a laundry sorter. I sorted our laundry. So, but I'm like, okay, if the sheets all get, and there's towels and things, throw them all in the washer together just to get that stuff out from under you and to make it easier. Throw it all in the tub.
Or, throw it on the patio, do whatever.
Yeah. Throw it in the shower, where you can then stand in the shower, and if you have soiled garments, you're like walking on them with your feet. So you're sort of like cleaning them. I don't, whatever little trick you need to use. And it's having compassion for yourself, not getting upset because you can't do it the way you would want to do it. Like, it's letting go of all those rules you have for yourself.
Yeah. And the guilt that you feel because you can't take care of your kids the way that you want to. This wasn't a sickness. This was an injury, but I had an injury to my back when my oldest was, I think she was 4 or 5. Oh, she must have been 5, because my youngest was like a year and a half. It started like right before Thanksgiving, and I just had this series of injuries that started in my shoulder, like went all the way down to my back. I couldn't move, and it was excruciating. At one point, it hurt to stand up. It hurt to sit down. It hurt to lay down. If I could lay down, getting up I couldn't get up. I was basically immobile. That the severity of that lessened slightly, but I basically had that for a year.
So that's more along the lines of when you're chronically.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so I had to figure out how to take care of my kids when I could not physically move in the same way. Like, I couldn't turn around like a normal person. If you think about taking care of little kids and how many times you rush to go get them, right? Because they're going to do something that they shouldn't do, or you have to catch them. I still had that instinct, but my body couldn't move that way. And so I would do it because it was instinctual. And every single time I would re-injure myself. And so that's part of the reason that it lasted for a year.
Yeah.
Is because I kept aggravating it and because I couldn't help it. I couldn't pick up my kids. I had tremendous guilt about that. That's sort of an extreme example, but there are people that have things like that. But even when you are just sick with the stomach bug and you can't pick up your kids the same way, and you can't play with them the same way, and you can't do the same things with them that you want to, and they're upset about it because they don't understand. And then they cry, and then you feel guilty. And it's just like, the reason that we wanted to talk about this is just because, just give yourself compassion over that, because you are literally doing the best that you can when a situation like that arises. You're doing the best that you can. And so whatever you're doing is for your best interest, which is for the kid's best interest. And the fact that you're feeling upset about it means you are a good mom, because that's always our biggest fear, is I'm a terrible mom because of this and that and whatever. I mean, I had that yesterday. I'm a terrible mom because of blah, blah, blah. It never goes away. And the fact that you're upset about it or worried about it, it means that you are a good mom. I mean, that's just how it works.
I do think that human beings are capable of remarkable things in the face of extreme adversity. And on the continuum of extreme adversity, the stomach bug for 24 hours is probably not, on the far side of extreme, but certainly can feel like it when you're going through it and you got little ones at home, or even medium-sized ones that need supervision. And you're feeling like, okay, I'm basically in the recliner. And if that's where I need to be so I can keep an eye out, but frankly, I'm in and out of consciousness, that sort of thing. For example, you have school-age children and you say, okay, you're coming home right after school because I can't go pick you up for your practice. I'm sorry, you're going to miss practice tonight. If you don't have an alternative, a neighbor or something that could help bring the kids home or, that sort of thing. So it's like, first of all, you find out how creative you really can be. And then that letting yourself off the hook. Release any expectations that you have, being able to be that perfect version.
For sure, the perfect version doesn't exist. And I will say one last thing is sometimes, depending on how old your kids are, you can also use it as an opportunity for them to become a little more independent. That's what I was forced to do that with my back issue, not with the baby, but with my older one. And again, I'm not going to lie, I did have guilt about it, but looking back on it, she is much more independent and willing to do things for herself. And I think part of it's personality, but I think part of it is that experience, is that I was forced to have her do things kind of on her own. Not dangerous things, but certain things.
She lived through her those years.
Right.
She survived those years.
Right.
But it's something right.
But I do remember thinking I would normally do this for her, but I can't. And so she's going to have to do it herself. And I'm going to have to
learn to pour milk,
talk her through it.
To pour herself a drink. She probably learned how to get herself a snack.
Yep.
And do those kinds of things.
Yep. Oh, I know. I remember one thing was the laundry. I used to have her take the laundry and put it in a garbage bag and have her drag it to the cellar stairs. And then I would tell her to just kick it down the stairs. And that's how I got the laundry downstairs, because I couldn't pick it up.
Right.
But I could drag the bag to the washing machine once it was downstairs, but to bend over and put it in the bag and bring it, all of that, it was one of the things that I was like, you know what, she's just going to have to do this.
Right.
And so I taught her how to do that. Now, I didn't make her do the laundry, but she did learn how to fold clothes probably earlier than she would have, so things like that. So there are good things out of it. At the time, again, I thought they were terrible, but looking back, those were good skills for her to learn. It wasn't in the way that I thought she would learn them. And so that's another expectation that I had to drop, is that she's going to learn things and it is not always in the way that I would envision it. That's okay.
Make it okay. Let it be okay. All right,
we'll
everybody.
See everybody next week.
Until next time.
Hey moms, I want to tell you about the free live event that I'll be hosting on Saturday, May 11th at 10 a.m. Eastern. It's all about the secrets to getting through hard things. I'm putting this together because I know that life comes at you when you least expect it, and let's face it, it's probably you who does the sacrificing to make sure that everyone else is taken care of. In this live, I will tell you the number one most important thing you need to know so you can take care of yourself and your family when the you-know-what hits the fan, and do it in a way that doesn't make you feel burnt out and resentful. You can sign up through the link in the show notes. I've made it super easy. And did I mention that it's free? There's one last thing I want to say before you go. I want you to know that you are the most important person in your life and your family's life. You deserve to take this time to invest in yourself. All right, I'll see you there. Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to us if you like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. This makes it easier for everyone to find us and helps us spread our message about self-care from the inside out. Have a wonderful week, and remember, making yourself the priority is the highest form of self-care.